Presentation on the Criminal Justice Council of Santa Cruz County 2021 report, and direct county staff to develop a scope of work that meets the requirements of Assembly Bill 1185 and issue a request for proposal or enter into contract with an independent police auditor as outlined in the memorandum of the Sheriff Coroner. Supervisor Friend, you are the chair of the Criminal Justice Council, and I'd invite you to present some opening remarks.
Thank you, Chair Koenig. I appreciate that. I have the honor of serving as the chair of the Criminal Justice Council of Santa Cruz County. And for those that aren't familiar with the Criminal Justice Council, it was created by then District Attorney Bob Lee, in particular to address and coordinate youth-related gang violence across our community. It has evolved to a broader understanding of dealing with criminal justice issues in general across our community, but it involves I think a remarkable broad section of the community. It has all of the police chiefs and the sheriff. It has city managers and the CAO's office represented, local behavioral health and mental health departments are there, the DA, the public defender, local nonprofit leaders, head of local educational institutions, as well as the mayor or designees of every local city. So it has a significant cross-section. We decided this year to focus on law enforcement policies and procedures. We actually believe, at least according to the White House and the National Association of Counties, that our region is the first region in the country to take this type of region-wide look at policies and procedures. And our goal wasn't to make any specific recommendations, but instead to just provide a transparent look at law enforcement policies and procedures throughout the county, in particular around use of force, although we also looked at technology and privacy-related issues. We worked with Applied Survey Research, which, as you know, is a nationally recognized survey research firm, and they helped do an independent look at the policies along with us. We had an exceptionally transparent and open process with the local law enforcement leaders who willfully and transparently participated in this process. We had an ad hoc committee that included some members of the CJC, as I had mentioned, as well as some outside voices that were able to come in and also provide their expertise. And the end of it, we produced a pretty easy to read report that all of you have received that takes a look at local law enforcement policies and procedures. And at the end of it, I'd asked every agency if they would be willing to present to their local elected bodies to take a look at the findings specific to their agency and to see whether those elected leaders had any comments or suggestions for improvements, or the agencies themselves had any suggestions for improvements, and the community had an opportunity to participate as well. I think one key takeaway on this was how remarkably progressive and aligned all local law enforcement agencies already were. When you look across the country, most agencies don't already have most of the policies that we have in place in our county, and that's something that we should commend both the local communities and law enforcement agencies for. Today, I understand by looking at this item that the sheriff is considering an independent inspector general component. I'd just like to acknowledge that the sheriff was the only agency that had initiated 21st century policing. And as far as a lot of these use of force policies that came into light, in particular around the George Floyd murder, his agency had already implemented these policies 5 or 6 years in advance of that. And so it should be commended the fact of our sheriff's progressive leadership, but I appreciate the fact that he took a look at where there were holes within the CJC finding, and today is here to have a discussion with us about that. So thank you, thank you, Chair Koenig, for that, and I'd like to hand it over to Sheriff Hart now.
Thank you, Supervisor Friend. Morning, Chair Koenig, Board of Supervisors, Jim Hart, Sheriff Coroner. And today I'm going to give you a brief summary of the report that Supervisor Friend just spoke about that was formulated from a subcommittee with the CJC. And all 4 police departments and the sheriff's office had executive staff at the table during about a year-long process to really examine our key policies, not our entire policy book, but the key policies, particularly around use of force and technology acquisition, and also oversight. And so I'm going to provide you a summary of that report. And as Zach, our Supervisor Friend, said, that the report can be found on the Criminal Justice Council's website. So we just wanted to look at the 4 local police departments and the sheriff's office. We didn't look at CHP, state parks, UCSC, or Fish and Game, because those are state agencies, and those policies come out of Sacramento. So we looked at the 5 local jurisdictions, and the purpose was to see where there was alignment and where there were gaps, and if there was anything we could do to bridge some of those gaps if they existed. And again, it's not a comprehensive look at the entire policy book, but it's just more around the critical issues. And as Supervisor Friend said, all agencies participated on their own. Nobody was forced to do this work. And so I thought it was a really good thing that all 5 agencies were willing to come to the table and take a look at some of these critical issues. So some key takeaways is that there's widespread policy alignment between the 5 jurisdictions of Santa Cruz County on just about every policy regarding use of force, technology, release of information. The 4 police departments and the sheriff's office have modern, up-to-date policies. And then for the agencies that don't have dedicated mental health liaisons working in their patrol groups, those agencies are very interested in the creation of some kind of an independent agency that could respond to mental health related calls. And then as Supervisor Friend says, we believe that Santa Cruz County is the first county to take a regional look at policy alignment rather than jurisdictional look. And really, if an incident occurs in the city of Santa Cruz, it should be handled the same way as it's handled in the county or in the city of Watsonville. So it's good to have that consistency. Moving on to an area of concern, and we've seen remarkable cases across our state and country around use of force. Every agency in the county requires their officers or deputies to practice de-escalation techniques. Every agency has banned chokeholds or carotid restraint. Every agency's policy requires that deputies or police officers have a duty to intervene. So if they see some kind of misconduct by another officer, they're obligated to intervene. Every agency has banned no-knock warrants and also banned shooting at or from a moving vehicle. And all 5 agencies require that less lethal force options are used prior to deadly force. And also the policy, there's a policy that requires warning before deploying lethal force. Around technology, no agency in the county is using predictive policing or facial recognition. And then 4 of the 5 agencies actually have a policy about technology acquisition. Procedurally at the sheriff's office, if we're going to examine a piece of technology that we are thinking about utilizing, we hold a 30-day public comment period. We hold a community meeting, and then I come to the board and provide you with information about that technology. And then we make a decision on whether we're going to use that or not. We've done that twice now with your board. You might remember when we put license plate readers on SoCal during a series of shootings that occurred near Dominican Hospital up to 41st Avenue. And then we also, when we implemented our drone program, we had the 30-day public comment period, public meeting, and we presented that information to your board as well. In terms of the militarization of the police, it's obviously a hot topic across the country. And there is a program called the Federal 1033 program where the military gifts surplus equipment to local police jurisdictions. And so I'm happy to say we haven't participated in that program, but I'm happy to say that every agency in the county does not participate in that federal program. And then lastly, on oversight, only 1 agency in the county has an actual oversight program, and that's Santa Cruz Police Department. They have an independent auditor there, which they've had in place for many years. And the sheriff's office, there was some comments earlier that we have no oversight. We actually have the Board and State of Community Correction oversees our correctional facilities. The grand jury inspects our correctional facilities annually, and also anything else they want to involving the sheriff's office. I report to your board on critical issues, and I'm also elected, so I report directly to the voters. So I disagree that there's no oversight. I think there is significant oversight. However, after a lot of thought and to be fully aligned with President Obama's 21st century policing platform that we adopted back in 2016, and also to be in compliance with Assembly Bill 1185, which is the Sheriff's Oversight Bill that was passed back in 2020, which gives an independent police auditor examines Sheriff's Office use of force cases, complaints, and critical incidents to make sure that those investigations are done thoroughly and fairly. So today, I'm going to request that your board authorize staff from the County Administrator's Office to develop a scope of work so that a contract can be completed for an independent police auditor to perform Sheriff's Office oversight to begin services sometime in fiscal year 22-23. That's my report, and I'm happy to answer any questions or listen to any comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheriff Hart. Thank you, Supervisor Friend. Are there any technical questions from members of the board?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, if I could. It's encouraging to see again that our Sheriff's Office and the police agency throughout the county are in this cooperative effort over how to implement public safety precautions for the people of Santa Cruz County. I mean, it started, as you said, with the 21st century policing, 2016. And it's really important to see that your programs are aligned. I want to just hope that you will carry on to the police chiefs and the police agencies throughout the county, the 4 cities, about how valuable we at the county treasure their input and respect what they have to say. I think it's tremendous, and I think it's really that something that we're seeing that nobody else is doing as quickly as we are. So, but with the issues, would they be prescribed by the agency itself, meaning the city or county, or is there a common set of issues other than inspectors routinely review? Is there something to start with, in essence, that police agencies have already said, we want to look at this, or that you would anticipate an auditor saying, he'll say, this is what I'm going to review?
Yeah, I think that would be established in the scope of work that the CAO's office will put together. I did examine the Santa Cruz Police Department's contract with their independent auditor, and it very clearly calls out citizen complaints, use of force, and critical incidents is really what that office or that person looks at at the police department. But it would be crafted through the CAO's office with input from your board, probably, I'm sure.
Good. And I just want to say my credit to the city of Santa Cruz for having an auditor previously, but it's very encouraging to see the cities and the county get together in addressing this critical issue of public safety in our community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor McPherson. Any further questions from members of the board?
No, I'll just make a comment. I want to thank you for what you're going through right now. I made a comment about how hard it is in the last couple of years to be chairman of the board. And I'm sure, in your opinion, has the last 2 years been probably the toughest that you've ever seen dealing with situations as a sheriff?
Yeah, I think the last 2 years has been very unusual, very challenging. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you lost an officer that was shot and killed during that 2 years also. And anyway, keep it up.
Thank you.
Keep up the good work. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions? I do have just a couple of questions, Sheriff. We've already heard from members of the community who are requesting a more complete citizen oversight board as compared to the police auditor position. But, ultimately we're operating within an environment of constrained resources, and your office has a number of unfunded positions, just, by way of example. So have you done any analysis on the cost it would require for a citizen oversight committee versus a police auditor?
I have not. No, I'm thinking that the CAO's office will complete that. I'm assuming that there'll be some sort of a contract or a purchase order, but I'm not sure what the cost will be on that. I'm ballparking it somewhere between $50,000 and $100,000
for the police auditor position. Okay, thank you. Does the CAO have any of further context you can provide there?
Yeah, we'll be happy to provide that analysis. Based on my experience from other jurisdictions, the independent auditor versus a full commission will be a much less expensive way to go, because with the full commission, you would have to have a staff person basically running the meetings in addition to investigators and so forth. So my gut feeling is that it'll be much less financially as a burden to do just the auditor position with a contract.
Okay, thank you. I look forward to more information on that. But, you know, again, just for the public's understanding, we had members of the public, including Lisa K. McCamey, a president of the Santa Cruz Criminal Defense Bar, write to our board saying they've heard multiple first-hand alarming accounts from incarcerated and formerly incarcerated individuals. And one of the reasons for that is a lack of staffing in the jail. So, you know, it seems to me that we can either prioritize solving the problem that we already know exists, or continuing to study the problem in one way or another. And, you know, having had an opportunity to tour some of our jail facilities with you, Sheriff, it's clear to me that we have really firsthand facilities, particularly at Roundtree, that prioritize the health and well-being of the inmates, but we need sufficient staffing to make sure that people can be housed there. Seeing no further questions from members of the board, we'll take it to the public. Anyone wish to comment on this item?
Hello, my name is James Ewing Whitman. I appreciated what I heard from Sheriff Coroner Jim Hart today. I believe there's 3,100 counties in the United States. And there was a time in the United States when any sheriff had the legal authority to even arrest the President of the United States. I'm pretty sure that ended on February 23rd, 1871, when the USA became a corporation. Seems like there's a great deal of information that I could find in the information packet if I just looked at it. I took a half page of notes. I appreciate that so far the feds have not come in to infiltrate the police. I'd like to do a little bit more investigation on that. I would love to find out the capabilities of the drones that this county is using, because I see a lot of drones in the sky, sometimes as many as 4 at one time. But I'm sure I can find out that information by looking further and asking the right questions. So thank you very much, Mr. Hart.
Thank you.
Good morning, Board of Supervisors.
Could you please lower your microphone?
Yeah. Good morning. My name is Renita Pomeroy, and I'm here. I'm here to speak about the condition of the jail downtown. I was going into the jail to visit an inmate, but then that ended. But I go in with a group called Prophets of Hope, led by Beverly Brooke, who's an outreach minister for Peace United Church of Christ. And I really got an eyeful. And this, you know, I haven't been in there until almost 2 years now, but it was just such an unfriendly place. And I understand we can't make it friendly, but we can be more respectful of the people coming in that are visiting its family. Plus, they have lots of little children. Sometimes it's grandparents with infants, toddlers, you know, babies. And it's just not serving them. You go back and you get on the phone and you speak to your inmate, and it's a little space. It's filthy in there. I mean, I'm telling you, for almost 2 years, I'd have to take on my own kind of cleaning materials, you know, wipe down the phone. And no one was really watching out for the families coming to visit, and they are traumatized families. And then we got into, the women's restroom has no toilet paper. The men's restroom has no toilet paper. So you speak to a sheriff, well, guess what? You get ignored, you know, multiple times, maybe an hour later. The toilet won't flush. You know, I'm just going on. And I was really thought, these are traumatized families and they have children with them. They deserve some kind of respect when they go in there. And when I was first going in, there was a, let's see, well, they have the sheriff there, but also...
Please conclude your comments.
Pardon?
You're out of time, so if you could please wrap up your comments.
Yeah, oh yeah. There was a receptionist. Well, she went away. So there was nobody to answer to anything. And even when we called it in, it was very well accepted up very at the top of the line, but it never got implemented ever. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of the audience that wish to speak to this item? We have anyone on the phones?
Yes, there are multiple speakers via Zoom. Reverend Beverly Brooks, your microphone is available. Second call for Reverend Beverly Brooks. Your microphone is available. Please accept the unmute. Oh, thank you.
There you go. Good morning. My name is Reverend Beverly Brooks. I am a community outreach minister with Peace United Church of Christ and a volunteer chaplain at the county jail and juvenile hall. Thank you for listening. In light of the $5 million settlement on behalf of Antonio Townsend and the grand jury's report on the state of our county jail, I appreciate the Sheriff's Office moving forward with the request for an Inspector General to oversee the Sheriff's Office and the county jails. I would encourage the CAO's office tasked with creating an RFP or scope of work to develop an avenue to solicit input from a variety of community voices such as NAACP, Smart on Crime, faith organizations, and the National Alliance for the Mentally Ill. Additionally, I would encourage the board to appoint a citizens commission to work in tandem with the Inspector General. The field of law enforcement has changed dramatically over the past year, with transparency, as Supervisor Friend mentioned, being at the forefront. A balance of voices will provide the citizens of our county, including our incarcerated sisters and brothers and the sheriff's staff, with the safety everyone deserves. Thank you.
Call-in user 1, your microphone is available. Marilyn Garrett, your microphone is available. We'll move on. Barry Ritchie, your microphone is available.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, so I would like to personally comment on the Sheriff's Oversight Committee. I'm very troubled by hearing that by hearing from the board that it will be significantly cheaper to hear from an independent auditor rather than hear from the input of the community. Because as a community organizer, I've been very troubled by the lack of response by the sheriff's department, as well as an essential worker. Last year, as an essential worker, it was the most crucial and most dangerous time as an essential worker dealing with the ongoing pandemic. Personally, working at the farmers market, I dealt with a series of incidents by an anti-mask crusade who was invested on harming the community and disregarding the safety of community values. And with that, we relied on the sheriffs who did not respond to this incident on 3 separate occasions. And on the third occasion, it was that I caught video of a sheriff fist pounding one of the anti-maskers on video, and it caused a response to where we had to pursue legal trouble on this incident. And as well as the issue of the prison conditions, which has been responded before. As an organizer, we thought a lot about the name of Tamario Smith, who was a male who died inside the county jail. And with that came a lot more incidents, which sparked a lot of incidents within the county jail, meaning that COVID conditions was rampant inside the county jail, and it wasn't due to the prisoners, wasn't due to the inmates. It was due to the lack, also the negligence of the county sheriffs, who who was not practicing public safety, who, rather than bringing issues of COVID inside the county jails. And so I hope you really could reconsider on hearing the community input and getting solutions from community members. Thank you.
Thank you.
Serge, your microphone is available.
Good morning. My name is Serge Cagno. It's my honor to speak to you today and to serve as the Secretary of the Mental Health Advisory Board. The Mental Health Advisory Board voted in support of a Sheriff Oversight Board in line with AB 1185. At our upcoming meeting, we're scheduled to finalize our letter to you. In spite of the agenda item number 8, I thought it's appropriate to update you on our thoughts. A Sheriff Oversight Board would give voice and transparency for both assurance of quality services and additional perspectives for innovative improvements for equity and representation of our community. As you know, the Mental Health Advisory Board is state required to include specific percentages of representation for both people with mental health diagnoses as well as their families, as well as people knowledgeable with our mental health services. The Mental Health Advisory Board advocates for similar representation on a Sheriff Oversight Board. We ask the Board of Supervisors to not simply choose a police auditor, but to also implement an oversight board to include representation by those with mental health diagnoses, their families, and those knowledgeable about our services. It recently came to the attention of the Mental Health Advisory Board, the Sheriff Department, nor any of the local police departments, as far as we know, have a policy to ensure that people placed under arrest at a traffic stop have their prescription medications in their vehicle brought with them to the jail to ensure the medical provider can quickly confirm the prescription and obtain more for while they are incarcerated and adequate supply once they're released. Medications are needed for immediate physical health and immediate detriment can happen if they are stopped. This is also true for psychiatric medications. Behaviors could include emotional distress, anxiety, and PTSD and depression, as well as some with psychotic or delusional symptoms, as well as self-injurious or violent behaviors. We're concerned about reports of daily medications not being given due to limited staffing, and we ask for the support of the Board of Supervisors to include mental health representation on a Sheriff Oversight Committee. Thank you for your time. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Bernie Gomez, your microphone is available.
Yeah, good morning, Board Chair. Bernie Gomez with Milpa, resident, born and raised in Watsonville and live in Santa Cruz. I'm going to read straight from the text, from the 1185, AB 1185 text. Section 125303.7 states a county may create a Sheriff Oversight Board either by action of the Board of Supervisors or through a vote of county residents comprised of civilians to assist the Board of Supervisors with its duties required to pursuant to Section 25303 that relate to the Sheriff. I think it's imperative to have a civilian board, to provide this board with, checks and balances to the Sheriff's office. The Sheriff Hart just stated that he's an elected official. Therefore, he is not answerable to this Board of Supervisors. And if something may arise, he answers to the voters. And just counties, like in the surrounding areas, there's been a lot of, talk about how to, essentially make, jails obsolete, essentially making rehabilitation a priority instead of incarceration. And how do we move away from de facto jail facilities acting as mental health facilities, right? So there's a lot of work to be done in this new age of just redesigning what public safety looks like. But to start with, I think a civilian board it's much needed, just to have a transparency and also to be inclusive of the community members, especially those that have been most impacted by the system and are formerly incarcerated at this table, to provide that voice right there, that direct impact of voice. So, but with that, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Last call for speakers. Marilyn Garrett, your microphone is available.
Good morning, Chair and Board. My name is Marilyn Garrett. I'm a resident, born and raised in Watsonville and live in Santa Cruz. I'm going to read straight from the text, from the 1185 AB 1185 text, section 125303.7 states a county may create a Sheriff Oversight Board either by action of the Board of Supervisors or through a vote of county residents comprised of civilians to assist the Board of Supervisors with its duties required to pursuant to Section 25303 that relate to the Sheriff. I think it's imperative to have a civilian board, Hi, this is Marilyn Garrett, and I agree with the previous speakers about the need for a Sheriff Oversight Board. Chair Koenig, your opening statements upon becoming chair had to do with listening to those who are, I forget your words, like rarely heard. Voices of the community. And I think it's imperative there be this oversight board. Also, a friend of mine about 2 years ago, and I called Supervisor Caput immediately for sheriff deputies. And it's on the record because I submitted a statement to the board, picked up a friend of mine who's in her 60s and basically kidnapped her from her home. And 4 of them took her off in a sheriff deputy car to behavioral health. She was injected with I don't know what. She was held for over 2 weeks, couldn't get out. Anyway, this does not make me feel good or about what the sheriffs are doing. This is a big problem, and I think also indicates the need for an oversight committee that's members of the community. I also want to know more about the drones. This is another microwave dangerous technology that I think is a detriment, not a help to the community. And last point is yesterday I was listening to KPFA radio. I think it was up front. And this had to do with sheriff officers in LA County being members of gangs themselves, quite a few gangs. And the woman who was reporting, there was a mother of a young man who had been killed in the sheriff custody in LA, and the autopsy revealed it. So there are problems here, serious, and I urge you to have a full oversight commission of the public and not just an independent police auditor. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ellie, your microphone is available.
Hi, thank you. My name is Ellie and I live in Watsonville. Community participation is vital. Regardless of comparison to the state or other departments, this sheriff department still needs a lot of work. Banning chokeholds is the bare minimum. I've seen plenty of officers let approach other community members without a mask and no other officer intervened. I've seen officers intimidate other community members and again, no other officer intervening. Self-examination and self-accountability does not work with the police. This is why we must have a civilian oversight board aside from the independent auditors, financial burden or not. We need to have community voices be heard because or else the burden is going to fall on who it always falls on, community members. So if no community voices are heard, it is not equitable, it is not oversight, and like Watsonville, it will be performative, and that itself is a financial burden, and a burden more than financial for our community members. Community voices are what are the most important when it comes to oversight of the police. If it is a conflict of interest to be quote unquote kept accountable by people that you work with in the county. We saw this poorly be done in Watsonville. So again, it is important to follow what is being said, what everybody else is saying. If you're not going to make a community oversight board, then what is this all for? prioritize your money. When I hear that we don't have staffing or money, all I hear is more money for cops when they already have the most. It makes no sense to me. We cannot keep pouring more money into them to try to keep them accountable because we are taking this money from community resources. The SRO program takes money away from our students. Hart said that this department would do it for free. Did that happen? Lastly, the county jail is atrocious. It has blood on its hands and it must be closed down. Tamario Smith died in custody. More staff would not have made a difference when it's the staff and the organization that is the problem. Thank you.
Reggie Meisler, your microphone is available.
Hey, yeah, I just wanted to respond. I can't really beat that last comment, but, you know, people are dying in the county jail, as people have been saying, and the sheriff's department doesn't really seem to know why they're dying in many cases or care enough to even put reforms forward to respond. And so when you have this level of just apathy and lack of concern for the public, you need to have some sort of democratic accountability over your executive branch. I mean, this is, you know, this is tyranny. I mean, this is fascistic when you can just let people die in jail and not care.
Last speaker, Karina Moreno, your microphone is available.
Hi, thank you. My name is Karina Moreno. I'm a lifelong Santa Cruz County resident, and I'd like the board to see the board support the implementation of an oversight committee. The COVID-19 pandemic highlighted a lot of improvements that we can make, and the sheriff's office has talked about building trust. And so I hope you'll all recognize that transparency, representation, and community involvement go a long way in building trust in a polarized community. I believe as we reimagine public safety, that making it inclusive to the people living in this community is the right way to go. And it feels very unsafe hearing how people are dying in jail and families cannot get answers, and the sheriffs aren't being held responsible for that. So I ask that you vote to implement both a community advisory board and an independent police auditor to not only cover the requirements required by AB 1185, but to work towards a healthier community. And I urge the board to realize that it is well worth the financial cost. Thank you.
Thank you.
There are no other speakers.
Thank you. Are there any other members of the public here in the audience that want to speak to this item?
Good morning, members of the board. My name is Cherry Maurer, and I am the mother of two sons with mental illness, and I am active in the mental health nationally, statewide, and locally. I would request that you consider 2 points. One, that the Board of Supervisors instruct county staff to solicit broad input from community members and stakeholder groups in deciding which type of community oversight model to adopt. And 2, I support a commission working with an independent auditor that is comprised of knowledgeable stakeholders, excuse me, and is capable of holding public hearings to resolve complicated issues of law enforcement accountability facing our community. Those 2 points, I think, are paramount in addressing this issue. Thank you.
Thank you.
Pardon me, Chair. 2 more speakers raised their hands on Zoom.
All right.
As a reminder, please raise your hand to speak and you'll be called in the order you appear. This is the last call for this item. Casey Gaspura, your microphone is available.
Hi, my name is Cassie Gazapora. I'm a local attorney. I've spent quite a bit of time in the county jails meeting with clients, and I also now work at a community-based organization that provides services in the jail. And I've been working with a number of advocates on the issue of oversight for some time. And I just wanted to make 2 points. I don't want to be duplicative. The first is that I worry about chalking up the issues in the jail to the staffing issues. I acknowledge that that is a problem. And also, I think the issues raised in the grand jury report go far beyond the issue of staffing. And I worry about it being a foregone conclusion that the method of oversight that will be adopted in our community is an auditor and nothing else. I don't presume to know what the appropriate method of oversight is. I have some ideas based on the work that I've done, but I think it is critical to get input from community members, from stakeholders, from those who are working with the populations who are incarcerated before making a decision about what is possible, what is feasible, and what is appropriate and will meet the needs of our community. That's all. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Susan Cohen, your microphone is available.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Susan Cohen, and I am a community member, and I care deeply about the safety and well-being of all of us in our county. And I was relieved to hear that the Board of Supervisors recognizes the need for an independent oversight of the Sheriff's Office, excuse me. I'm asking that there be a creation of an oversight board made of diverse community members in addition to an independent auditor. I was first aware of the negligence in the main jail after the death of Tamario Smith in the summer of 2020. Then last June, when I read the 2021 grand jury report, I learned about other events that took place in our county jail that included prisoner deaths, homicide, and sexual assaults by correction officers of prisoners. I was horrified. Then I learned there was no process in our county to hold the sheriff's office accountable, and I was angry. We need a civilian board to bring diverse perspectives, including those formerly incarcerated and family members of those formerly incarcerated, to the table. I would like to urge you, please, to use both of these oversight and that work together. And and thank you for your time.
Yeah.
Last speaker, AJ, your microphone is available. Rename AJ CCHIKJA.
Yes. I don't know if you can hear me.
Yes.
Okay. My name is Ashika Khan Ka'awil. Just a butcher. However, I felt that, like the many who have already spoken, I would agree we should maintain having our council. It just feels like there's already a lot of distrust with our own local law enforcement. And even though I personally support our local law enforcement, it's just going to continue further driving a wedge between the people and our local law enforcers. And for all the reasons that people are brought up, they seem clearly of sound mind. And I would really, I don't want to sound like a broken record, and it seems like everyone is on the same page, but if we continue to even hint this idea of this, someone who may not even be local, this auditor we know really nothing about, I would even urge some form of compromise even. I'm not hearing any suggestions for a compromise. I know that might take longer. I know it might be a little bit more out of the way to even do more research on what is and what isn't when it comes to the idea of bringing in an outside auditor. But maintaining that council is going to be what allows us, the people, to at least have some form of degree of trust. The more the people are wedged out, the more powerless we're going to feel. And I imagine tensions will get high and unnecessarily bitter. I know I only have 15 seconds left, but I would like very much for the council to rethink and not be so hasty with this decision. That is all. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Please raise your hand now if you intend to speak to this item. Please raise your hand at the beginning of any item that you intend to speak to so that we can expedite this process. Last speaker, Amelia, your microphone is available. Second call for Amelia.
Sorry. Can you hear me? Just to echo everything that everyone else, most people have said, there definitely needs to be an oversight committee composed of community members from all parts of Santa Cruz, not just the east side or the west side. And it's part of a checks and balances. The sheriff's department has created kind of a bitter taste in most community members' mouth. And if they want to reestablish any kind of trust, they need to be willing to be more transparent. And they need to be open to, the possibility of an independent oversight committee run by the community, an independent auditor. Because if there's nothing to hide, then why would this be an issue? All of the checks and balances are done internally, and that causes a lot of problem, a lot of looking the other way. And, there's been a lot of unjustified deaths and incidents in the county jail, which shouldn't happen. Your life shouldn't end because you got incarcerated. That's not up to the police that arrest you. That shouldn't be a fatal thing that happens to any citizen, to be found dead in your jail cell. So I think a checks and balances system definitely needs to be implemented if the sheriff wants to establish any trust at all back in the community, and less fear when the community members come in contact with them. Thank you. I cede my time.
There are no other speakers.
That will conclude public comment and bring it back to the board. I'd entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve.
Motion by Caput to approve the recommended actions. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Supervisor Friend. Any discussion?
Mr. Chair,
yes,
this is my opportunity. I just want to take a moment to recognize the effort of the CJC to look at best practices across the entire county, working collaboratively with mental health professionals and public safeties, elected leaders. I think as Supervisor Friend mentioned, this is the first effort that we've seen of this kind. I also want to appreciate the sheriff who adopted 21st century policing, adopted many of the reforms before there was a national outcry and to implement those needed reforms. And I think this is just a continuing step to ensure that we are providing the best practices for our community.
Further comments or discussion? I'll just add that I think that the recommended actions here, which include creating a scope of work for a police auditor, does not exclude further investigation into a citizens commission, and that could certainly be another step that this board considers a further time. And so I'm supportive of the motion. Clerk, please call the roll.
Supervisor Friend.
Aye.
Coonerty.
Aye.
Caput.
Aye.
McPherson.
Aye.
Koenig.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.